Okay, now we're going to start the actual painting of it. So I have it placed here on my paint stand. So I have like a little Lazy Susan that I got at a discount store, and then I have this larger one that's actually a dog grooming table, but it gives me the ability to actually hang pieces or, you know, do all this. The paint is already, I've already mixed it to the correct consistency, and like I said, it's the consistency of about skim milk. That's the best to start with, and then you can make it thinner or thicker, depending on your preference and your like. I have a Grex airbrush gun, and then I have the Neo Air little Ninja compressor. It's sort of base level entry stuff. So now we're gonna paint. So I'm going to be editing, you know, this later. I didn't edit the original video because I didn't know how, but this one I'm actually gonna try to edit and see. So then that way you don't have to sit through, you know, me layering it up. And also, even though it's supposed to be a silent compressor, it still makes a little bit of a noise, so you're not even gonna be able to hear what the fuck I say anyways. So we're gonna go ahead and start painting, and then once we're done with this, I'll show you the next step, and then the next, and then the next, and we're just gonna keep kind of going like that until we're done. All right, here we go. And if you can hear me, you want to lay it in like a dust coat. You don't want to ever lay really heavy coats, you know, on it ever. You want a nice buildup, because then you're gonna have all kinds of runs and details that get filled in. So, you know, you put a nice little dust coat on, and then move to the next item. So then that way that one's already kind of starting to dry, and, you know, and then you just kind of keep going around until you build up to the tone that you want. And with these little bases, you can put these alligator clips on them and hold them, so then that way you have the ability to spray every side and every little crevice of every object that you got. Now this is a really light color, which means we're going to need multiple coats, even with the white primer. You know, the less opaque it is, the more you need to kind of build it up. And so that's what we'll be doing. We'll just be laying on light coats until we run out of the ink the paint that's in the cup, and then we will move on. And then we'll let it dry. We'll fill the cup back up, and then we will apply more coats until we get it at the, like I said, to the opacity that we want. So then that way it's extremely bright, extremely visible. With painting, it's always better to be safe than sorry. Well, with any of this stuff. So you always want to go light. You always want to go soft. You don't want to really, you know, flood this stuff. You want to use the minimal amount of paint possible to get the maximum coverage. You know what I'm saying? You don't want to overdo it, because then you're going to have like a big globby, flat, clumpy looking paint job. And that's the good thing about these airbrushes, that, you know, once it, you know, atomizes the paint, it allows for a real thin coat. And then of course thinning it down more will you know, give you an even thinner coat. And I know it's kind of in bad lighting right here. Eventually I'm going to get like a correct stand and lighting and all that kind of stuff, but since these are sort of my beginner preliminary videos and stuff like that. However this moves forward will be totally based off the reaction to these, and you know, I guess how stupid I feel I look on TV, or how relevant I feel, you know, that I'm even helping anybody by showing you guys this stuff. Like I said, a lot of this is just real basic model building techniques. Okay, so now we're going to see how dry that is. And never, to see if it's dry, never touch the actual part that you painted. Touch the tape around it, or you know, the base around it, or the parts that it isn't gonna, you know, fuck it up. So I think we need one more coat. You know, one more pass at it. So. To get in all the crevices in this, you're gonna have to kind of turn it around and kind of move it around, so then that way the paint can flow in there. Because if you just shoot it flat, you're gonna see the gray still peeking through. You're gonna have to kind of pick it up and really get that airbrush in there and get in all the little crevices. Otherwise, you'll have to go back in there with the brush and kind of manually do it, which still might be advisable, just to make sure that you know, have everything look even and clean. But so far, I think it's not too bad. That looks good to me. Those two coats. We're going to clean out the airbrush a bit, and then we're going to move on to our second color, and then then we'll let that dry, and then we'll move on to the purple, and then we'll just kind of keep going step by step. So as you can see, this stuff doesn't really take too long. You know, the whole disassembly process, if I wasn't talking in that first video, would have been 20 minutes or less. So you can actually take apart those in 20 minutes or less. And right now, you know, we're 10 to 15 minutes into the initial, you know, laying down of the color of the paint at the paint job. And you'll see that this stuff, it's already dry. It's pretty much already dry, unless there's like some that have, you know, pulled or collected in the nooks and crannies. But it's pretty much already dry. You can kind of tell by looking at it in the light whether it's still shiny or if it's flat. If it's flat, it's, you know, pretty much dry. But you still don't want to mess with it too much. You want to give it a larger dry time. You want to make sure that it's, because you're going to end up kind of handling this stuff. And this is one of the problems that I have, you know, myself as a collector and a customizer, is sort of like when I'm halfway to 3/4 of the way through with the project, I get really excited to see it finish. And so usually what happens is I get into a rush, because I need to see the components together after it's already been painted, you know what I mean? Instead of me just patiently doing everything right, you know, one step at a time. Usually I'll, you know, towards the end, I'll kind of try to rush it. And sometimes I end up fucking it up, and you have to kind of retouch stuff and repaint stuff, and it gets frustrating. So I recommend being patient and doing it correctly, step by step. Even though that sometimes here on these videos, I won't be following that same advice. Okay, so we're gonna move these and get the items that are gonna be the next color. Okay, so we're gonna be doing this, the little kind of side card that holds the gun holder, the windshield, and the front forks and fenders. And we are going to be moving on to the golden olive from Google. And you'll get the feel for it. All of this stuff, all of these tools, all these techniques, all of this stuff, you'll eventually just get the feel for it, and you'll just naturally kind of widen your arc, you know, artistically as you become comfortable with these things. So these things spin, and then you can take these out. They sell these at Hobby Lobby, and these bases at Hobby Lobby for just a couple of bucks, and they really sort of help out your ability to control where you paint on here. You know, to make sure you get every side, every angle. Because you'll see as we start to detail this, having everything cleanly painted on all sides of every detail is what's going to help us make it look better and find those body lines as we move on. So I'm going to avoid as much as possible painting the fender, because that's going to end up being purple, and I'm just going to paint you know, the where it needs to be green. But, you know, like I said, you're going to see all the little details in there, all the little beveling and edges from all the little parts, and you're going to want that all cleanly and flatly painted, so then that way you have the best possible result. So I believe this color is good. All right, so we have our two greens done. So then now we will be just left with the purple. Okay, so I'm gonna move the camera back over here, so then that way we can kind of continue. All right, let me. Okay, so then let me move this all back in. Okay, so we've done the first two colors. Everything looks like it's you know, covered good enough, that it's opaque enough. But since this is basically brush paint, if you do chip anything, or you know what I mean, accidentally, you know, scratch it or mess it up in any way, it's easy to touch up. So now we're going to be moving on to the body. So there's one thing that I had forgotten to kind of show you and mention. So let me get a toothpick. So those plugs that you have to take out in order to get to the screws, right? Those 5 plugs, right? So what I did is I messed up the first time that I did this, because I painted them separately. And so what happened was these wells inside here where they go into got filled up with paint. So I had a really, really hard time getting them back in there and trying to get the paint out and, you know, sand the sides. It was a huge pain in the ass. And it was such a huge pain in the ass that I didn't even learn my lesson, and I did it the second time as well. So this time what I'm doing is as I put them back in, you know what I mean, as we're painting, and you can see that the primer has filled a lot of that marking in. And so what I do is after I you know, spray that layer, you can push it out from the back. Make sure you can push it out from the back, so then that way it doesn't get you know, stuck in there. You want to be able to pull them back out, right? Because then eventually, because you're gonna have to pull them back out to paint them, to put the screw in. But you want to just make sure you have the ability to kind of pop them back out, so then that they're not stuck. You don't need to take them all the way out. You just want to make sure that you are able to. I mean, some of them are pretty stuck in there, and it's just because of the layers of paint and stuff like that. But yeah, you can just kind of keep taking them out, and like I said, that there's only one way to put each one back in, and they have the groove and like the little tab to make sure you don't put it in, you know, incorrectly. This one here in the middle is being an ass. Okay, what else can I All right, and so then this one too. So you just want to make sure that you do that, so then that way later on down the road you don't shoot yourself in the foot and paint those shut, and to where you would be unable to paint them. Okay, so now while these here are drying, I need to paint the green on the cowling of that, and then we will tape it off even more, so then that way we can do the purple. And at this point, it doesn't have to be like a really precise paint, tape job, because that's going to be done when you do when you tape these to put the purple in. So I'll do just kind of a loose tape job, just kind of get close enough, because like I said, getting into all these details, getting into where everything is kind of beveled and has different edges and stuff like that. You want to make sure you get all sides, because that's one thing that you'll see like on some people's customs, to where they just kind of paint the top of everything and they don't paint the sides, and so it kind of gives it a more of a flat look. Whereas this will help make everything look clean, because you'll be using the actual edging of the object, to create the delineation of the colors as well. And since we're using an airbrush, you know what I mean, you want to make sure you cover up the green that you just painted, so then that way you don't put the second shade of green on top of the first stage. So we're getting almost done with that roll of tape there. Okay. Am I losing my mind here? So we got that one, and then we got this one. Okay. So now we're going to paint those. And we're going to be using, like I said, this that golden olive, which is like the kind of medium green color, to replicate the green from the packaging, from the box, from our reference.